fight starts with Jones crawling towards Machida, and he takes the center of the octagon. This isn't just a mind game meant to confuse Machida though. Within the rules of MMA, fighters aren't allowed to strike a downed opponent with kicks or knees to the head. As long as Jones keeps 3 points of contact on the canvas, he's practically putting an imaginary shield around his head. This takes away any possible unorthodox first strikes and allowed Jones to dictate the first couple of seconds of the fight. He stands up and they find themselves in an open stance, which generally is what Jones and Machida tend to fight in. Here we can see Jones show a Muay Thai stance to prepare to check any possible left kicks from Machida. Machida uses a back stance that's derived from Shotokan karate. Similar to a Muay Thai stance, his back leg carries about 70% of his weight, and his lead leg carries only about 30%. By keeping his back leg heavy, Machida is always prepared to counterstrike or jump forward. And by keeping his lead leg light, he's prepared to check any leg kicks from Jones. Jones throws an inside low kick that Machida moves out of the way of, and instead of moving with the kick like Whitaker does in this clip, Jones stops rotating his hips and moves his back leg to regain his balance. This way he can keep his eyes on his target the entire time. He then throws a flying oblique kick that Machida circles away from. Here, Jones and Machida are both setting a pattern while hand fighting. Jones then throws a lead hook that Machida L-steps away from, and Machida goes to hand fight again. While Machida did this, Jones took a huge step forward to break the distance, to the point that he's stepping on Machida's lead foot, and throws an overhand right that doesn't reach Machida on time. Jones right away moves his lead leg toward his opponent, not giving Machida any extra space to work with. Machida's style is derived from point fighting. This style is essentially high-speed tag, with the goal of hit and don't get hit. Machida used this style combined with a technique called pattern breaking. Pattern breaking is basically setting a rhythm in a fight and suddenly breaking it, to punish your opponent. He does this by doing little movements like this to force Jones' mind into thinking he's safe, and then catching him off guard. Machida throws 2 jabs with 30% effort that Jones doesn't react to. Jones then takes a big step, closing the distance, and Machida feints another jab. Jones interrupts this by throwing an overhand right that Machida slips out of the way of, away from Jones' power side. Although this defense seems relatively simple, fighters like Machida are able to react so quickly because of their background in point fighting. Jones then threw a spinning back kick to try and catch Machida while circling away, but Machida parried it by deflecting the strike that way. Machida finished circling away and exploded into an inside low kick that lands perfectly because of the pattern breaking that Machida set up. Here, Jones briefly switches to a southpaw that puts them into a closed stance. Machida feints a jab that Jones reacts to by feinting his own overhand right. Machida reaches his right hand out, prepared to parry, and circles out. Machida continues to feint, setting a pattern again. Jones interrupts this by throwing a body kick that lands on Machida's forearm, which could have ended pretty badly. Jones then lands a heavy leg kick that caught Machida off guard because he was so focused on setting his own pattern instead of thinking defensively. Here, Jones throws a step-up outside leg kick and Machida times it to throw a left cross. This was the first of many attempts that Machida tried catching Jones while he was on one leg. This time, somehow Jones was able to parry it, avoiding any damage. In this exchange, Jones level changes and takes a huge step forward, trying to set up his overhand left. He does this by focusing on Machida's leg, so that Machida is thinking about the takedown, to then strike upstairs, exactly like how Khabib dropped McGregor. Machida sees through this and parries it with ease. Machida then L-steps away from Jones' power side. He then unexpectedly throws a body kick without the intention of landing it, but instead with the intention of setting his pattern, measuring his distance and forcing Jones to react. Here, Jones throws an outside leg kick, and again Machida times it to throw a left overhand. Notice how Machida prepares to counter. He keeps his lead leg completely in the air, while he watches Jones look at his legs. He then baits the leg kick by putting weight on his lead leg, and steps forward. He then explodes off his back leg and leans forward to throw the overhand left. This is exactly why MMA fighters with a background in point fighting are so difficult to deal with. Because in most traditional combat sports, like boxing, kickboxing, and Muay Thai, it's generally considered bad to be leaning forward this much. But in karate, taekwondo, and all these other martial arts, it's the exact game that they play. This time, Jones doesn't parry it as well, and the overhand left seems to graze him. Machida follows this up with a right hook that Jones slips at an angle, while measuring his distance with his right hand. He then circles away while incorporating his long guard. Jones throws a spinning back kick that covers an insane amount of distance, and almost lands on Machida's liver. Jones then throws an oblique kick at Machida's lead leg that doesn't reach him. Machida takes a step back and breaks the pattern by throwing a jab cross that catches Jones off guard. Jones extends both of his arms to measure his distance and circles away from Machida's power side, but Machida broke the rhythm of the fight too suddenly, and Jones eats a left cross from Machida before he could parry it. Jones reacts by grabbing a collar tie and throws a knee up the middle that doesn't reach Machida. Jones throws an outside leg kick that Machida backs out of the way of. Jones here pivots his foot that way and naturally uses the momentum of his leg kick to move his leg back to the floor. They then break the distance between each other, and Jones switches so that they are in an open stance. Machida throws a snapping body kick with the intention of breaking the distance between him and Jones, and throws a jab cross that doesn't land, because of how far Jones L-steps away from him, in a matter of seconds. Jones then pressures Machida to the center of the octagon, and this time he explodes into a high switch kick that Machida barely backs out of the way of. This sort of game of tag that they are playing is playing more to Machida's background in point fighting, and Machida so far looks better than Jones. Jones here takes a step towards Machida, and Machida takes a step back. Even this small, seemingly insignificant detail can be used to set a pattern. Seconds later, Jones again takes a step towards Machida, closing the distance between them, and breaks the pattern by throwing an overhand right that Machida slips out of the way of. Even with setting this pattern, Machida saw this strike coming from a mile away. This is because he was staying just within a range that Jones could strike him, but he couldn't strike Jones, because Jones has an 84-inch reach versus his 74-inch reach, and is planning on counter-striking Jones while he is overextended, or in the middle of a strike. Machida then pressures forward with his 70-30 footwork, and because of this is able to at the last second back away from a front kick from Jones. Machida again stays within Jones' range, and eats an outside leg kick from Jones, and this time decides not to catch Jones while he's on one leg, to make him feel comfortable striking at his range. Here, Machida is staying right at Jones' range, and waiting for him to strike. Jones throws an overhand right that Machida pulls out of the way of, and looks to counter while Jones is overextended. But the distance between Jones' arms and his own head is much shorter than Machida's arms to Jones' head. This allowed Jones to raise his guard on time to block a lead hook from Machida. This paired along with the massive reach advantage that Jones has over Machida made it difficult for Machida to close the distance on time to land a clean strike. Looping strikes also take longer to land than straight strikes. Machida in this specific instance had a better chance with a straight backhand, but even then it would have been tough to land because Jones moved his head down, unlike Alvarez did here. Jones then transitions his high guard into an open hand frame on Machida's face, and pushes off it, avoiding the follow-up left hook from Machida, and breaks the distance between them. Here we can see Jones and Machida hand fighting, and Jones pivots his lead leg to the outside so he can throw a leg kick. Machida, before the kick is even halfway to landing, sees this and is prepared to counter-strike. His forward-leaning Shotokan karate stance, which is bad in most traditional striking combat sports, shines in this specific scenario, because this allows him to cover the distance between him and Jones, rather than him being upright 100% of the time. This also allows him to strike with a different kind of power, because his body is already leaning that way. Machida swipes Jones' lead hand downward to give his left hand a clear pathway towards Jones. Jones isn't able to move his backhand on time to parry Machida's overhand left, and it lands perfectly. Machida follows that up with a right hand that would have landed if Jones didn't instinctively move out of the way. Machida follows Jones as he backs away and throws an uppercut. Jones uses his right hand as a frame and kills any forward momentum that Machida had, and briefly holds a collar tie as Machida disengages. After those exchanges, Jones appears definitely more focused on his defense than his offense. Machida explodes into another snapping body kick with the intention of breaking the distance and throwing a left hand. He does this while switching stances, which makes his right hand his power hand, which he then threw as Jones backs away while using his long guard. Here, Machida backs to his left and Jones pressures towards him, cutting him off. Machida then switches and backs away to his right, which is exactly what Jones wanted, and instead of cutting him off, takes a step forward to where he was a second ago, and throws a spinning back kick that missed Machida's head by inches. He trained Machida to expect a kick to the body, and his body naturally reacted this way, leaving his head wide open. Here, Jones throws a high kick, and rather than absorbing the force with a traditional double arm block, or K block, Machida leans at an angle and tucks his chin behind his shoulder, while sort of parrying and feeling where the kick is with his left arm, and it doesn't land. Here, Jones throws another body kick that Machida backs away from. After Jones throws an oblique kick, both these fighters play that sort of game of tag fighting that plays into Machida's background in point fighting.
Alright, John, here's the deal. After you kick, he wants to shoot that straight left at you. You know what I mean? Fake the kick, lean off an angle, hit him with a 9 or a glue. Alright? He wants to counter you after you kick. Do not come back in that space. Otherwise, you're owning the guy.
That was the audio of Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn coaching Jones about how Machida kept repeatedly landing a cross while he was in the middle of a kick. Basically, they instructed him to fake a kick and strike from there. Here, Jones throws a switch leg kick that Machida backs away from. Machida then closes the distance by throwing an inside leg kick of his own that lands. Tag fighting against fighters with a background in point fighting is never a good idea, especially against Machida, who's fought like this his entire life. Jones here shuffles forward and Machida instinctively backs away. Jones then moves towards Machida's left while switching stances and gives Machida a clear pathway this way. Jones then throws a spinning back kick and Machida uses a technique called a crossbody parry. He does this simply by pulling his torso back while simultaneously swiping his right hand that way, redirecting the strike away from his body. Here, Jones again throws a high kick, and we can see the same unorthodox defense that Machida used the first time. He again leans at an angle and raises his lead elbow. He also seems to soften the blow by cross-parrying the kick with his left hand. Here, Jones throws an oblique kick that doesn't reach Machida, and he counters with a step-up leg kick. Here, Jones feints a single leg to get Machida thinking about the takedown threat and lower his arms to defend against it. That will soon set up his signature spinning elbow. Machida throws a cross that Jones defends in two ways. One, he slips at an angle while raising his shoulder, and two, he moves his backhand to parry against the cross as well. He then backs away and slowly makes his way to the center of the octagon, and throws a light 1-2 upstairs to get Machida's attention up here. And in the meantime, there's a step-up leg kick that lands cleanly. Machida then starts setting a pattern by feigning a blitz, and Jones doesn't give any reactions to it. They both disengage for a split moment, and when Jones closes the distance, he again feints a single leg, and this time Machida momentarily is thinking about defending the takedown threat or defending a spinning back kick to the body, and lowers his arms. Machida sees through this and raises his arms at the last second, and Jones decides to not commit to the spinning elbow. In this wild exchange, Jones throws a step-up body kick, and Machida times a cross that lands flush, and catches the kick with his left hand. He then throws another power right that doesn't land because Jones used his right arm as a frame on Machida's face to measure the distance between them, and keeps Machida at a distance from Jones. He also extends his left arm towards Machida's power side and absorbs the power with this arm, sort of like a parry but with his forearm instead. He then takes one large shuffle step back and stays grounded while prepared to defend himself. He gains inside position of Machida's right hand and has it controlled for a split second. This means he only has to defend against Machida's left hand, and does so by raising his guard in his left side. Jones grabs a collar tie and quickly gets out of range of a left hook from Machida. Machida pressures Jones while staying in an open stance, and this time Machida has outside position while hand fighting. He then throws a body kick that doesn't land because Jones again planted his feet and slipped at an angle. He then attacks a single leg, and Machida in a split second grabs an underhook to bring Jones's head upwards, disrupting the takedown. Machida disengages and frames for a split second, and Jones fires a strong knee to Machida's body that he tried to block using his right arm and couldn't lower it on time. Machida then throws an overhand right that doesn't reach Jones. In this exchange, Jones and Machida both throw overhand rights at each other, but only Jones's lands. This is because Jones kept his head off the center line and moved it from where it was a second ago, whereas Machida kept his head exactly where it was, on the center line. Jones frames against Machida's face to stop any other possible strikes or forward momentum from him, and they both stay patient at a distance. Seconds later, Jones closes the distance between them again, and level changes. Machida responds more defensively this time by moving his head off the center line and grabs an underhook, something Jones takes advantage of with his height is making Machida carry his weight whenever they find themselves in a clinch. In this specific scenario, an over-under clinch. Jones here attempts a technique called an ouchi gari, or inside trip. Instead of shooting low for a double or single leg, he uses his huge frame to secure a body lock on Machida. He then steps his left leg around Machida's to disrupt his balance as he pushes off his left leg and move forward. Jones does a great job of getting below Machida's hips, with the intention of following it towards the ground. Machida defends this by moving his right leg to regain his center of gravity, and they crash against the fence. Jones transitions to a double leg while keeping his head stuck to Machida's chest. Machida doesn't have any space to defend this, and Jones picks him up while jumping backwards and following him to the mat. He keeps his head and right hand here to keep Machida on the ground and enters his full guard. Here, Jones throws a right hand, and Machida isn't able to block it with his hands, so at the last minute, he tucks his chin, so that Jones punches his frontal bone, which is naturally slanted. It prevents that whiplash effect that can cause knockouts. Machida gains a knee shield and creates a pocket of space between him and Jones. Machida tries to control Jones's right hand, but isn't able to control his elbow, and Jones slices him open. He goes to throw another elbow, but stops at the last second because Machida shrimped and worked to a turtle position. Machida starts bleeding automatically and has to fight with relatively impaired vision from now on. Jones secures a front headlock and transitions to a ninja choke. Machida defends this by hand fighting and briefly tucking his chin, before Jones abandons this. Machida goes to get a 4-point position and starts making his way to his feet. Jones sees this and decides to chase the back. And before Jones can secure a rear body lock, Machida moves his back to the fence and moves his right arm to secure an underhook. Here, the ref stops the fight because the cut on Machida's forehead is dripping into his eyes, impairing his vision. After medical staff decide that Machida can continue fighting, they start the fight again in this over-under clinch against the fence, and Jones misses this foot stomp, but gets Machida thinking about his lower body. Jones lightly throws an oblique kick to set up a strong knee up the middle. He goes to throw another knee, and Machida uses this opportunity to disengage from the clinch. He uses his right arm to move Jones' center of gravity to where he momentarily doesn't have a leg, because of the knee. Machida, now without his back against the fence, disengages the clinch and backs away from a lead elbow from Jones. Jones here countered the counter by throwing a Superman punch. He raised his left leg, and Machida expected another kick, and tried to catch him with an overhand left, while Jones is on one leg. Jones's left hand lands before Machida's, and he defends Machida's left hand by keeping his guard high on his right side, and Machida drops to the canvas. Jones grabs a front headlock and throws a knee up the middle as he pushes Machida against the fence. Jones transitions to a modified guillotine where he goes palm to palm and chokes Machida with his left arm, while his right arm acts as sort of a lever. Jones is driving his choking arm's radial bone directly into Machida's carotid artery, cutting off circulation. This makes this modified guillotine an air choke as well as a blood choke. Notice how Jones has Machida's head pressed against the fence. He isn't just choking him with his upper body strength, but he's also choking him with his entire body mass. Because he used a palm-to-palm grip, his wrist bone and forearm was driving right across the front of Machida's throat, crushing his windpipe. Machida tried his best to move his head that way to stop the pain, and Jones squeezes the choke that much tighter. Machida goes unconscious quickly because his blood flow stopped moving towards his brain.